Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my future card Buddyfight Duel Seeger deck profile for October 2020 with the release of Buddy Ragnarok and the newest Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy we got back in January. This is an awesome deck that focuses on Genma's main buddy monster being Duel Seeger from the original Buddyfight series. A very powerhouse card that focuses on just using Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer to use and utilize all the different size 3 monsters we run in this deck to hit for some pretty hard attacks with this one solo monster here. So definitely excited to finally be bringing you this deck and hoping to do a lot more deck profiles from Buddy Ragnarok with all the different support we've had from the set. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for our Buddy monster fighting under the Ancient World flag, we're using Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy. Being the powerhouse that it is, it just focuses on so much power, so that's why we're deciding to run the 4 different copies of this unit in the deck just for consistency. With it, it has Lifelink Lose, Quadruple Attack, and Penetrate. The call cost being, when a size 3 monster with lifelink on your field is destroyed, you nullify the lifelink and then pay 3 gauge to call this card. This card on the field cannot be destroyed, returned to the hand, or rest by your opponent, and its abilities cannot be nullified. And this card on your center, if you have it as an originally size 3 monster on your left and right, get size reduced by 3. And this card gets plus 5,000 power and plus 5,000 defense and critical +1 for each different size 3 monster in your drop zone. So we're running a pretty high size 3 monster count in the deck just because we can hit potentially for a game attack if we set up the drop zone, with enough size 3s before we go into the attack step on the first turn. So this card having quadruple attack and penetrate means you can hit for damage alone with this card, and the fact that we can run additional size 3s on the left and right, making them size 0s, are just additional attacks we can use with this card altogether. And there are other ways we can get out into the field without having to rely on a lifelink being destroyed as well. One of those cards being Duel Seeger Centurion. With this one, you pay 2 gauge for its call cost. When it enters the field, you draw a card, then call up to 1 Dragon Lord monster from your hand without paying its call cost, and put this card into that monster's soul. And if this card's in the soul of a Dragon Lord, that card gets Soul Guard, and this card has Life Link 3, so remember that. So with Duel Seeger Centurion, you will pay the 2 gauge and call your Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy on top of it that easily. For the Soul Guard additional that you'll be giving your Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy, since you have Lifelink Lose, you definitely don't want this card leaving the field. So having that additional Soul Guard that Duel Seeger Centurion provides is an added bonus for sure. So you definitely want 4 of this card. There are plenty of ways to search out all the different size 3 monsters we run in the deck. You just want those options available to you as quickly as possible. So max out your numbers of all your different size 3 staple cards as well. I have 3 Duel Seeger SD. I definitely want to run 4 of this searcher in the deck, which if you were to have the 4, I would take out 1 copy of the next card I am running. This card in the field or drop zone is also regarded as Martial Arts Dragon Emperor Duel Seeger. You may discard this card from your hand and pay 1 gauge. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 card with Duel Seeger and its card name, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. And you don't really need to call this card. It does have lifelink, so you have that option to call it, so you can have the lifelink negation for Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy. But this is just your search card that you'll use to search out either the Centurion or the Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy to your hand, hopefully having the other copy in your hand to use for the combo play. So having 4 of this is my ideal number. If that were the case, I would drop out 1 copy of Martial Arts Imperial Dragon Emperor Duel Seeger. This is just another good lifelink option, giving you the double attack, but it also builds up gauge for you, because being able to rely on this when when a monster on your field is attacked, you put the top 2 cards of your deck in your gauge, and it only activates once per turn. And this version of Duel Seeger only has lifelink 3. So even if you don't have the lifelink negation of Tempest Enforcer, you still have other options with this card to at least protect you, since you can also put up the 2 cards from your hand into its soul and pay 1 gauge. So you're not also limited to just the Dragon Lords that you would put in with the original Duel Seeger either. And I also run 2 4th Omni Firelord Burn Nova Revival Buddy. With this one, it is the Ancient World monster, so you're not limited to the Omni Lord call with this card. It also needs 3 gauge for the call costs, and also just a great card at protecting you from your opponent at the cost of your hand. Nothing on your field will be able to be destroyed or leave the field or rest by your opponent's card effects. So this card can also be called to the left or right when you have your Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy on the center, being an optimal call for those positions, protecting your cards. And you really won't need the hand size once you have this setup, since this card also has 4 critical on its own and penetrate and triple attack, along with Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy. That's a massive amount of damage you'll be dealing to your opponent, and just overall power altogether, since it also has 19,000 power to rely on, and no lifelink to worry about either. And I also run 4 Erudite Dragon Emperor Philosophia with this one. Counter, choose a size 3 monster on your field, and you may drop this card from your hand and pay 1 gauge. If you do, stand the chosen card. So after you've used, let's say, the triple attack with your Burn Nova Revival Buddy, or the quadruple attack of your Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy, being able to get that 1 additional attack in could be the finisher for your attack. And if you don't have Philosophia in your drop zone when you use this, you'll be adding on to the power and also the critical of your Duel Seeger Revival Buddy by placing this card in the drop zone with its own skill. And then for some of the one-ofs, because like I said, you have to have different numbers of size 3s to increase Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy. And we have a good amount so far, but just to add on to those numbers, I also run the one of the original Martial Arts Dragon Emperor Duel Seeger. I don't normally call this card, it's just another size 3 option for the drop zone, just like Duel Seeger Spartan. I also run 1 Transcend Emperor Iwagite. Also running, these are just personal preferences of mine for the different size 3 monsters. So I run 1 Assassinator, 1 Chaos Delegarian, 1 Chaos Ravager, and 1 Chaos Valvaros, along with 1 Armorator Dragon Emperor Sovaris for all the different size 3 options. Now this can be any size 3. I don't normally call these cards, the ones that have the lifelink are the additional benefit for, you know, using Duel Seeger Revival Buddy. But these are ones that normally just go into the drop zone to increase the critical count of Duel Seeger Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy. Having at least 8 of these copies, and along with the other additional size 3s, you can hit immense critical numbers if you set up all these cards in your drop zone, which is very easy to do with a good amount of the spell cards that we are running in the deck as well, which we will move on to right now, with the newest addition to the deck being the Dragon Light for 1. I don't run any size 0s in the deck, but this is still a great card to rely on for search power. You just pay 1 gauge and drop a hand card, put up to 1 size 3 and up to 1 size 0 monster from your deck into your hand and shuffle your deck. You will only cast Dragon Light for 1 once per turn, so you don't have to search out both the size 3 and the size 0. You can just search out one without the other. And we're going for the size 3 with this, just being more search power, and also the fact that you will drop a hand card means that if you potentially have any of the size 3 one-ofs in your hand, setting it up in the drop zone for the Revival Buddy makes it all the better. And it's a once per turn, but we want that search option along with Centurion, along with all the other spell draw power we're running. It's a great setup for sure in the deck. But before we go for the draw power, we want to, thin out the deck some more of the size 3s. So I run 4 Sturdy Dragon Strike. You drop up to 2 Ancient World monsters from your deck into your drop zone, and then shuffle your deck. Then you put the top card of your deck into your gauge. So most of the time I go for the one-of drops, just placing them into the drop zone so I don't draw into them, saving my draws for something more important. So running 4 of this is great for that setup, for the fact that Sturdy Dragon Strike is not a once per turn. If I have multiples of this card in my hand, I can keep on using them, and that's where the potential win for your Tempest Enforcer Revival Buddy comes in, because you'll be setting up gauge for the call, but also for all the different size 3s you call into the drop zone, using this card for that play. For more draw power and gauge setup, I also run 4 Dragon Emperor Legend. Just putting the top card of your deck into your gauge, gain 1 life, and draw a card. It's a once per turn, but if you have the multiples of this, it's just great to save for the following turn if you don't finish off your opponent with that 1 attack there. I also run the 3 Divine Dragon Creation for the life cost. It's just draw power. I prefer to use this after I thin out the deck with cards like Sturdy Dragon Strike or even the Dragon Light for 1, depending on which one comes first for that search power, and then that draw could potentially lead into more draw power as well. But there is some heavy gauge use in this deck also, so I run the 4 Rise and Fall of Dragons. You pay 2 life to put the top 4 cards of your deck into your gauge. You may only cast this once per turn. turn, but that 3 gauge for Duel Seeger, Tempest Enforcer, Revival Buddy is heavily needed. So this is just another great option, along with Dragon Emperor Legend for the gauge setup, and then being able to, have no fear of, my opponent having cards that could drop gauge. This also is a counter card, so I can rely on that if I need it when my opponent's going to attack into a monster with lifelink. It's just a great 4-up for sure, because I can use it on my opponent's turn and on my turn whenever I need, since it is a once per turn, and set up plenty of gauge for me. And then getting to some of the smaller numbers, I also run the 2 Death Reanimated Dragon Reborn. You may only cast this if you have 5 life or less. You discard your entire hand and draw 3 cards. You may only cast this card once per turn. It casts even if you don't have any hand cards. So with this, if you have plenty of these size 3s, being able to drop them into the graveyard is just an added bonus for that drop zone play. And then being able to draw it to something potentially more useful, I like it as a 2-of. You have to have 5 life or less, but you can easily do that with all the cards that cost life in this deck, also including your Divine Dragon Creation and your Rise and Fall of Dragons. Early game, I like to also rely on Sky Dragon Divinity, being a gauge 1, life 1, put 3 cards in your drop zone at the bottom of your deck. If you have 10 cards or less in your drop zone, to draw 2 cards. So early game, if you just need some more of that draw power, I don't normally like to put the size 3s, but if I have any spell cards I've used already and set up, with more gauge, it's just that easier to use this along with just other draw power resources late game and then early game here. And I also run the 2 Soaring Dragon Fair Skylines, the draw 3, discard 2 for 2 gauge once I set up the gauge with Rise and Fall Dragons, having some more draw power to rely on. That's why I like running 2 of this. It's a once per turn and more of a heavy cost than some of the other cards like Divine Dragon Creation, so that's why I'm only running 2 of this card. And lastly, I run the 1 Loyal Dragon and Courage. You put this card into the soul of an Ancient World monster on your field, and you have to have a size 3 on the field. To search your deck for up to 1 size 0 monster and call it without paying the call cost and shuffle your deck, or put this card into the soul of a Dragon Lord size 3 on your field, and when it's in that soul, if it attacks, you put the top card of your deck into your gauge, and it only activates once per turn. So with the multiple attacks we can do, we can set up that gauge very easily with our monsters, and just giving it more soul power as well if we have Centurion set up with Duel Seeger Revival Buddy also. And that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said, I'm definitely excited to be working on all these different decks from Buddy Ragnarok and also Beyond the Ages, so definitely look forward to those. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.